I wanted to do something different and model generosity and to see like what would it be like to be able to actually give away a house with some of the proceeds that we made from the conference. After I gave away the house, they explained that morning they woke up and they knew that, someone was going to win a house, and they woke up and started praying for that person. Instead of them waking up praying, Lord Jesus, let me win the house, they woke up praying for the person who was going to receive it. And so it was given to the right people. It started from, me first taking the leap and getting my real estate license. And one of our companies that we have just crossed $1 billion in sales last year.
Whoa!
I'm a co-founder of a brokerage called Boast. It's a purpose-driven brokerage, and we have over 300 agents, and we just crossed $1 billion in sales last year. So
come on, God. Welcome to the Faithustle Podcast, where we help young Christian entrepreneurs learn how to build their business God's way. I am so excited for today's conversation. This is someone I've been looking forward to having on the show for a good while now. She is an investor. She is a coach and a teacher around real estate investing and helping families and people learn this valuable skill so that they can build wealth, generational wealth for their families. And she has such a generous spirit, which you'll hear as soon as we start talking. But I am so excited of how God brings these different people on that not just have the ability to create wealth, but have God's heart, because that's what we're about. And so this person embodies both of those things. So without further ado, welcome Erika Brown.
Hi, I'm so happy to be on the podcast. I've been following your journey and have been so inspired as well. So thanks so much for having me.
Oh, this is such an honor. And I'm beyond grateful that you would even be on here. And I'm excited to do some stuff with you, hopefully this year in Atlanta.
Yes.
I know we've been talking and kind of brainstorming about that. So I'm super pumped to see what God's going to do. So it's going to be awesome.
Me too. It's going to be great.
Well, I want to start off kind of high. The first time I interacted with your content, I think you were doing a conference or some type of event, maybe a summit. And I just remember I was like, somebody cutting onions. I had to get attention. And during your event where you're teaching people real estate, you gave someone a house. You literally gave away a whole home to someone.
It's wild.
I'd love to kind of get into that. Like, man, that's different. Come to a conference. If you get a house, it's usually I gotta pay you a coaching fee.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like that's just unbelievable. I love to hear the story behind that.
Yeah, man, it's wild. It's so wild. I still look back and I'm like, I can't believe we gave away a whole house. Like, it is wild. Like, highlight for sure of my life. I just felt like, getting ready to, one, I have to even back up a little bit. So I'm the founder of what's called the Owning and Living It community. So it's an amazing, beautiful community of folks that come together. A lot of us are believers as well. And we come together and we believe in being able to build wealth, not just for ourselves, but to be able to have financial freedom so that we're freed up to do what God has called us to do.
Come on.
And, it started out just basically teaching and just trying to figure out an efficient way to be able to help my friends, build wealth along this journey as my husband and I had been doing. But then it ended up birthing into this beautiful community that I didn't even expect. And then that led us to wanting to host a conference, like an actual conference. So we really call it an experience, because when you think about conference, you just think about really bland, cold rooms and people talking at you. And it's not that at all. It's like truly an experience. And to commemorate the first experience, owning and living experience. And then also I just thought about how many conferences I've been to where I pay all this money for the ticket, and I pay all this money for the hotel and all this money to get there. And, like you said, and there's usually additional fee after that for their services. And I wanted to do something different and model generosity and to see what would it be like to be able to actually give away a house with some of the proceeds that we made from the conference. And And it turned out just to be such a beautiful experience. I had no idea who was going to win. It happened to be a current client. And not only that, it happened to be a current client who were believers, who had experienced miscarriages that year, just a lot of loss. And so what was so crazy, the crazy story that you probably seen where you started cutting up onions was after I gave away the house, they explained that morning they woke up and they knew that, someone was going to win a house, and they woke up and started praying for that person who was going to receive the house. Instead of them waking up praying, Lord Jesus, let me win the house, they woke up praying for the person who was going to receive it. And so it was given to the right people. And I just can't wait to see how the Lord is going to continue to change their generation and that comes after them from that blessing. So I don't know, it's weird, it's crazy, but I did it and it was amazing.
No, I love that. I mean, it was so inspiring, especially for myself. We just got done with our first tour, and I felt like God was like, hey, I want you to model generosity. So we did it in our own way. We weren't able to give a house away, but we did raise enough money with our ticket sales and with the generous donations of the entrepreneurs in the room, where we built 7 clean water wells in one township, which is incredible.
That's huge.
And I think you have to, but I think you're doing such a beautiful thing with your platform of even something like that, of saying, no, this is why we do it. And this is what you get to do when you build wealth and you have God's heart. And I just think that's just so powerful. And what a testimony too.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I feel like, along my journey as a believer, we've seen God create so many miracles through other believers. So it was other believers that supported us throughout our journey when we were new, trying to figure it out, young family, that really put that generosity in our heart, because it's not just a house. Like, there's been so many other things that we've been able to do over the years to help model that generosity, to help really be the hands and feet of the Lord. And it's just really ingrained in everything we do in our businesses, again, because we've been the recipients of that same grace from the Lord and from other believers along our journey. So we're just happy to continue to do that.
I love that. That's amazing.
Friend, really quick, before we keep going, if you're enjoying the conversation we're having in this episode, you're going to love what we have inside the Faith Hustle Network. What's the Faith Hustle Network? I'm glad you asked. It's more than a podcast. It is a growing community of faith-driven entrepreneurs looking to do business God's way. We do weekly Bible studies, Friday strategy calls, and network with each other in our chats. You can get access to the people that you see on this show, to ask your questions in real time and hear their wisdom and strategy that could help your business. Whether you're just getting started or you're scaling something big, this is where faith and business meet. If that describes you, tap the link in the description and get in the room today. Now enjoy the rest of the episode.
So I gotta hear the background, because we got to talking and you were telling me, man, you guys are running 6-7 different companies around real estate. But obviously it didn't start that way. So how did this all begin? Did you come from a real estate family? Was this like your background? Like how did you get into all this?
No, I did not. Absolutely not come from a real estate family. What was so crazy is that my parents both grew up very, very poor. Like, my dad actually picked cotton. He was what you call a sharecropper. Yeah, so no, it was a real thing in the 70s. So it was, my parents grew up very, very, very poor. And so, they quote unquote made it and raised my sister and I right outside of Dallas, and were able to own a home. And so that was actually, I felt like growing up, that was a win, because most of my parents lived in an apartment. And so both of my parents, worked traditional jobs. My dad always had a side hustle on the side, right? He always had some kind of additional way to earn money. So my entrepreneurial spirit came from him. Growing up, I used to see him flip cars, quote unquote. He flipped classic cars. He would buy old Camaros and Chevys and Novas, and he would restore them and sell it. And so that's actually how we were able to buy our first house growing up, is from him flipping a car. And so I just feel like God planted those seeds, as I got older. And my husband and I, we finished college and ended up moving to Atlanta. And, it was like, okay, I'm going to work for this company and then just going to retire at 65. Like, I never had any type of desire to be an entrepreneur. My husband probably had more desire than I did. I didn't have any desire to be an entrepreneur. And we ended up actually moving to Atlanta with a group of people with a church plan. It was like 25 of us, crazy, just out of college. Our parents thought we were in a cult. I'm sure. I know now being a parent, I would probably think that. But we weren't. We weren't. But we all moved to Atlanta to help, be good neighbors and share God's word. And we ended up moving to a neighborhood that most people thought they, will never want to move into. And so it all kind of started from a Bible study. We listened to a Tim Keller Bible study. I think it was called like In the City or something like that. Rebuild the City, maybe. And it was just a group of 4 families, and we did this Bible study together. And after we did this Bible study, we just felt called to moving to a part of the city where people generally don't move after they go to college. This is the kind of neighborhood that people move out of,
Yeah, exactly.
And so we felt God calling us to move there and to be good neighbors and to love on people, like Christ. And so we did that. And we ended up buying our first house through that process and renovating it, and we did what we call now house hacking, where we renovated it, we built out the basement, and we rented it out to someone in our church. And at the time, before we did that, like we barely were making it. Like I had to borrow $3,000 from my dad for the down payment. We bought a foreclosure at the time. This was post recession.
Oh, yeah.
So people were not really wanting to buy houses. Yeah. But that one move, being able to rent out our basement got us out of living paycheck to paycheck. And so now we're in this beautiful place where we moved to this neighborhood. We're being good neighbors. We're seeing like just the transformation of different, people around us. We're also seeing that the neighborhood isn't as bad as we thought, that there are actually so much life and beauty and treasure within the neighborhood that we just, allow perception to this kind of form opinions. Yeah. And so we're seeing that. And then at the same time, I'm working at the bank. So I'm working, even though I live in one of the poorest neighborhoods in Atlanta at the moment, I am working in one of the wealthiest neighborhoods at the moment. So it's just such a oxymoron, right? So I'm seeing all these different clients come in, whether they own a business or they're C-suite or, own a restaurant. And one of the things I realized is that they all invest in real estate. All of them, right? And so I'm just kind of picking up the seeds, right? Yeah. So, I'm curious. So I'm always asking questions, and the folks that come in and they just seem like they have all the time. They're not rushing. They don't have anywhere to be. They're just telling me all the game about investing in real estate and all these things. And so I'm in this neighborhood. We're being a good neighbor. I am falling in love with the neighborhood. I started a blog called Urban West ATL. And in this blog, I'm interviewing business owners, and I'm just, furthering that curiosity. So now all my friends who have been watching our journey is wow, so you guys are buying properties and renting it out. And wow, I didn't know about that restaurant over there in the neighborhood. So they're they're seeing our journey. And they're also learning about this area that they thought was one way, but is actually different. And so they're I want to move over there too. And so I'm oh, okay, well, you should see this house that came on the market. You should see this house that came on the market. So I'm memorizing all the neighborhoods and driving them around, showing them houses. And then I end up referring them to a local real estate agent. So that is happening at the same time of that. I'm hitting glass ceiling in my career. Okay. I'm getting to a place where I've gotten promoted, and now I'm ready for the next level. I desire flexibility. At the time, I had 3 kids under 5. I wanted to, yes, I was tired of having to ask for permission to go to their school programs. I was, felt like, okay, I'm doing a good job. Why am I still having to stay here? I've done my job in 5 hours. Why do I have to stay here for 8? All the things. And God is just like, I went from getting back-to-back promotions to getting probably over 20 declines. Wow. And so God was just like, obviously blocking that door and opening up these others. So, I had a friend. So the turning point was I had a friend that passed away all of a sudden, just out of the blue. And he was a young person. He was 32 years old, and he fell asleep and died due to natural causes at 32 years old. So, of course, when someone passes, you just reflect on their life. You reflect on how they have, what they've taught you. And one of the things that my friend Sam taught me was, he was just so courageous. He was also an investor. He was just never afraid to lean into where the Lord is leading him to be. And so something about that experience really just allowed me to be open, Lord, okay, maybe you don't have me being at this corporation until I'm 60. Maybe you have something else open for me. Because a lot of times we have so much tunnel vision and we're so, hard and fast on one plan that the Lord may be trying to steer us in a completely different direction. But we have to be open to even, hearing where the Lord's trying to take us. Yeah. And so the moment I decided to be open, the Lord just started opening up and showing so many opportunities. And then that's when I realized that I had probably lost $100,000 in commission by referring all of these people to a local real estate agent instead of helping them myself.
That was I'm trying to set you up right here. Yeah.
So, it wasn't over a year or so, maybe we just decided okay, well, at the time, and I had almost 6-figure jobs, so it was not easy, and my husband worked in nonprofit. So it wasn't easy to just, make this decision. It wasn't like I was just a single lady and I had no responsibilities and I had $500 a month. No. I had big girl bills, okay? Big girl bills. And, the Lord just continued to put on my heart, just, I have something here for you. I have an opportunity for your family to use real estate to help rebuild your community. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't have all the answers, but I just knew that I needed to be obedient and trust the Lord. Okay. And so we just got our ducks in order. I reached out to a friend that had made a similar leap previously. I knew that, I could get my real estate license, and that could help, to at least pay for our minimum expenses, and then trust that the Lord will kind of provide the steps after that, where that would go. And that's how it started. It just started from, me first taking the leap and getting my real estate license and starting a real estate team. And then later, my husband joined me when we started our commercial landscaping company. And then we ended up bringing our family from Texas to help us run it. And now, we have multiple businesses. We have our real estate sales company. One of our companies that we have just crossed $1 billion in sales last year. I'm a co-founder. I'm a co-founder of a brokerage called Boast. It's a purpose-driven brokerage, and we have over 300 agents, and we just crossed $1 billion in sales last year. So God has just been come on, God. Crazy generous, and just hey, if you trust me, I am going to light the path. And so that's where we've been. That's a very short version.
I mean, even just and I'm a sucker for founder stories, because I think it generates hope. I think it helps to make it this thing, which we're going to get to in a little bit, of some of the misconceptions around maybe even real estate that you have people around, because it can feel like this such a big mountain.
Yeah,
only
for sure.
People can do this, or people who came from money and knew this.
Yeah.
Like hearing your story of like, hey, it started from us. One, we were in obedience, we moved. And then it started from curiosity. And then, you know, being willing, again, if you're listening to this, hopefully you're catching these nuggets of like being willing to adapt, being willing to like not fight against the current God's clearly trying to get you on.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know a lot of times in my life, God was trying to make it abundantly clear, even with Faithustle. So he's like, bro, like, I'm closing every other door that
Listen.
Until you just get it and listen to like, no, do this. Like, there's something here for you. But again, like you said, you know, you had 3 kids, you had, you know, bills, all this other stuff. So like, we're not trying to minimize, you know, what the sacrifice is, but it's like I think of Peter in the Bible, how I feel like one of his side missions was like, Peter, I got to get you off of this boat. You keep trying to get back to fishing. Like even his last interaction with him before he ascended, you know, one of his main like one-on-ones with him before he ascended into heaven, he was back to fishing. And because
that feels safe.
It feels safe is what I know. It's my default. And it's like, Jesus kept trying to like, if I can just get you and wane you off of what you're good at, like, let me show you something on this other side. And that's just the beauty of like doing life with God, of like, God will just invite you. So anyways, I'm getting so many nuggets from this, and I love it.
Yay. It's crazy.
And so, okay, so you have several companies, co-founding a company that has gone to $1 billion, and you know, one, I love to get in your brain how you manage all these things.
Yeah, we can talk about that easily.
But I'd love to learn, again, for someone that's like just in their beginnings, what's some of the common misconceptions of even getting into the game that you would love to dispel? Of like, if you had a one-on-one time with someone that's just thinking about it.
Yeah. No, I think whether it's business or real estate, you know, someone can hear where my story is today and just feel like, one, like you said, it's this huge mountain, or they can have so many ideas and just want to do them all at one time. And that's the same thing with real estate. I meet with people and they're like, okay, cool. I want to invest in real estate. I want to buy a vacation home. I want to do a short-term rental. I want to do Section 8. I want to buy this. And I'm like, okay, that's amazing. Right. And so in the same way, it's really important to just focus on your next step, right? Focus on, okay, because at the end of the day, God rewards obedience, right?
Yes, he does.
And so it's like, all right, Lord, what is my best next step? Yes, I have all these 20 things I can do, you know, later, but what do you have me to do today? And so there's a book I read. It's actually a real estate book, but you can apply it in so many different ways. It's called The One Thing. And it's like, what's the one thing that I can do that make the biggest impact towards my goal today? And so being able to figure what that is out. And I'm a proponent of not having to start from scratch. I believe in community. That's why I love the community that you founded. Being a part of community helps you to link up with other people who have gone before you, so you can get the blueprint so that you can fast track it. So if you notice in my story, the moment I decided that I wanted to go down this route, I called up a friend. You did it. You know, what did you learn? What do I need to look out for? What are my first couple steps, right? That's the best thing you need to do. And so that's a huge one, especially for those who invest in real estate. Because like you said, people think it's only for the rich, and it's so not true. It's really, really not true.
I love that. What's your next one thing? So you say for most, it's like, hey, get the right information, call someone who's done it.
Yeah.
Or get in a community of people that are doing it.
Yes.
And just be around it. Okay.
Yeah. I think so. I think that's a start. Yeah. Again, getting curious, asking questions, because, you know, someone else's journey may not be your journey, but you can be inspired by someone else's journey by asking questions. And then that can give you that creative genius to figure out what that looks like for you, especially if you're in a place where maybe you don't have the resources to invest in a coach or anything like that. But there, between communities and information, there's so much out there. So it's just a matter of, okay, what is the one thing that I can do that will drive me towards my goal, and focus on that step in front of you versus 10 things down the line that don't matter.
I love it. Honestly, funny enough, that's why I'm the biggest proponent of the local church, because like, tell me an organization that exists, one that's existed for this long, that you can, in one community, you can have different socioeconomic backgrounds, ages, races, different stages of life. A lot of what I know and learned from business, I learned from the men and women in my church.
That's
growing
awesome.
up, and I would just take them to coffee, and I would show up to the business Saturday breakfast that they would do for, and then I was like, oh, okay, what do you do? And like, oh snap, like, and that when you come with humility, there's very few people who are not want to show you game, or like,
absolutely,
like, if you come with humility, but like, that's why I'm a proponent of the local church. Like, so I love is like, hey, start with. If you have friends, call. And if you don't have friends, get some new friends.
Find some new friends. Going to conferences and places like that is where you meet those new friends. Yeah.
And I actually think this is a big deal to talk about, because I could hear it of people kind of giving the excuse of, well, man, that's nice for you, but because you know so and so, and it's like, hold up, like there is something on your part. If I heard someone say, if a homeless man can find the money to get whatever they need to get, you can get you can get if you're desperate enough, you can find yourself in a new circle.
Yes, 1,000%. I agree, 100%, fully.
Yeah.
I mean, what I love about now being in real estate is that I have. Just end result of just showing up and sharing information or supporting someone else, I've gained a whole another community of amazing people that I get to connect with on a daily basis. There's one group that I'm a part of. So it was March 2020, and it wasn't even due to COVID. I think I was just in a place where it's like, man, I desire to be around more, ambitious women who, are believers, or just really just ambitious and want to do something more, right? Because, being an entrepreneur can feel lonely sometimes, especially if you don't have others around you. And so I paid $20,000 to join a mastermind, and the mastermind was great. It helped me to reach, get to 7 figures. But out of a result of that, I ended up meeting a group of people, and it's such a beautiful group because we are from all different types of backgrounds, all different ethnicities. We even believe different things, which is great. It's been a great testimony for my faith. I've been able to share the gospel multiple times, which is pretty phenomenal. Yes. And we have all different types of businesses, but we end up traveling twice a year. We talk twice a month, and we encourage and pour into each other in business. And so I have I have all these different pockets of community that I've been able to create and make. And it ends up being so much beyond the business, or so much beyond real estate. That's been such a blessing, and has really just helped, really to be able to just live even a more full, purposeful life, because meeting all those people just by taking a chance and being in the right rooms. So that's a big deal for me.
No, that's huge. I mean, I don't know if I know anyone that is scaling and excelling, and if you point to their success, it's they were in a room. They were in a certain room with certain people, and where they're sharing information, they're sharing wisdom. Yeah, they have someone that they can call. I think that's huge. I mean, the Bible calls it wise counsel, right? I think a king, we're building kingdom businesses. A king has wise counsel. And they're very specific. And in those kings that fell, Like if you study Kings, they had terrible wise counsel,
or they didn't listen to the wise counsel.
Or they didn't listen to the wise counsel. Right? So it's like it always comes down to that, and like God will bring those people in if you ask Him, and it's up to us, obviously, to take that information and run with it. As we get ready to close here, because I know we don't have a ton of time, I would love, again, you have all these different, which I think is brilliant that you built your companies around the central focus of real estate. How do you manage all of that? And like, and it kind of like, I'll say this, where I'm trying to get to, and I think you kind of mentioned it earlier. Someone can see where you're at and they're like, oh, 7 streams of income, let me start it all now. And so they're like, they got 7 LLCs, all of them making like $10. You know what I mean? But it's like, I got, it's like, I got streams.
Let's back up.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Let's back. So how did that come about? And then how do you, in a day-to-day, kind of manage all of that? Like, how does it flow together? I just love to learn.
No, absolutely. So in my mind, I have to start from here and then get bigger. Okay. So I'll get there. So one of the things is really important to understand that our businesses have always been birthed out of solving a problem. Okay. So what happens is there is a problem that we're trying to solve, and then we address that problem and we create a business. And the goal always is to create a self-managing business. I personally don't like to work. Like I like to as you guys meet more real estate investors, there'll be a theme. Okay. Like we don't want to work that much. That's why we invest in real estate. Right. And I've had the like huge teams. I have, right now I feel better with like a smaller team. And so every time I set out to create, answer a problem, again, the goal is to create a self-managing business, right? And so I lean into the value of focus. And so if I'm if I'm answering a current problem, I am focusing on that one problem. And then the goal is to create that business, solve that problem, and then grow that business to a place where it is self-managing, to where I no longer have to work in the business. My goal is to just work on the business and inspect what I expect. Right. And so there are some businesses, there's really only one business that I am actively working in. And the other businesses either have, like, for example, the business I'm a co-founder of, Brokerage Boast. We have a CEO and we have employees with that company. So my role is more of an advisory role for that company. I have multiple companies that I am more of an advisory role involved in. The company that I am the CEO of, that I actually work in day to day, is our education company. That's where I'm equipping landlords and new people and new investors how to scale. That's where I am CEO, spending the majority of my time in. And then my husband is running our property. So he's the one who's managing the portfolio, all the interacting with the property management team and all that kind of stuff. And then we have our times where I check in, I see how things are going, I influence strategy, and then they go from there. So a big part of it is knowing when to step in. Like when you're creating something, you're in it. Like you're in it. You need to learn. You're all in it. Yeah. You're learning how to do it. But then I think the biggest thing with me is that I don't stay there. I am not afraid to make the necessary investments to scale, to then be able to pull myself out of it, and then be able to just end up creating a stream that doesn't take up a lot of my time. And so so depending on the company determines like my level of involvement in it. And so the majority of the companies that I own, I'm not involved in the day-to-day, but I do have a process that allows me to understand what's going on in all of those companies, and to be able, like I said, to inspect what I inspect. One of the key positions that we brought on the last couple of years that has been a game changer for being able to do this successfully is I have a CFO, a fractional CFO, where I delegated basically I'm still responsible for the finances, and my husband and I, we still are like the people who are on the accounts, but we have a financial team that is watching the money like a hawk. And then we meet bi-weekly, and then they say, okay, here's this is the same as this month, or why is there increase here? And that's really helping us to make sure that we are on track, that nothing is falling through the cracks, and if it is, that we can kind of step in and pay more attention. And so that's just something I've learned over time. I've also learned the value of being able to have multiple streams of income, especially in my industry in real estate. Real estate has transformed over the last 3 years. So if I only had revenue coming from my real estate agents, then, oh my gosh, I would probably be in bankruptcy right now. Okay. Because that's a line item that we used to easily make $500,000 a month just from our real estate team. Not a month, sorry, a year, just from our real estate team. And I remember March 2022, the commission that we made for the month was $3,000. Again, we're going from $20,000 to $30,000 a month to $3,000. So wow. The value of even within your business having diversified income helps you to not have to just be so all eggs in one basket in case something changes. Like right now, I'm sorry, I like to talk numbers. I like to get into it.
I love it. This is amazing.
But my right now, I just made a post recently. I was like, boring businesses are winning. Our commercial landscaping company grew 46% last year. And so I'm like, boring businesses, it has no social media presence. Yeah. Like, it's the best. I was like, how can we enhance that?
I might need to get me into a boring business. Plumbing,
right.
To a plumber.
Yeah, plumbing and electricians are expected to grow 600% in the next 5 years. Yeah, it's huge. So I told my husband, I sent him a reel. I said next business loading.
Junk removal. Just the stuff you don't think about. I love that. I think one thing that, we have a network, an online community for entrepreneurs called the Faithustle Network. And every time we have a conversation around scaling, mm-hmm. and even on our show, I'm talking about 9 times out of 10, it always comes down to hiring the right team. Mm-hmm. It's because I think we would think, it's marketing or it's this or it's that. And yes, those things influence it. But having the right systems in place that are repeatable, mm-hmm. and putting the right people. Jim Collins talks about that all the time. Get the right people in the bus, put them in the right seat. And that's even more important than the vision of the company.
Yes.
The people that you have in the seats. And I love how your mindset, where someone, maybe if they started a second company or a third company, is can we just get it to grow? You're like, no. Where can I get this where it can be self-managed?
Yeah,
and that's a whole different goal than let me just start something and see if we can make money. It's like, no, how can it? That requires
again, because I don't like to work, so it just kind of comes back to your goals and your priorities. I just want to travel. I want to wake up and decide. I just want to look out the window for 5 minutes. It just depends on what your goals are. And that's the thing. When I help my clients, I don't project what I want for my life. That's the first thing I do is figure out what do you want your life to look like? And let's reverse engineer from there. And we all have different desires and needs. Some people want to be out there doing the thing, okay? That's what they want to do. And I'm like, sure, for about 10 hours a week. I don't want to do all that every day. So
listen, I'm right there with you. I think obviously I love what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I think I want to build a business where I can be interrupted. And I don't have children yet, but I want to be hey, today is dad day,
yes,
having fun today, or like you said, or traveling or just different things like that. But you got to know what you want or what you're trying to build. But I love it's intentional. I love.
And what season of life you're in, So I have 3 boys, and I just sent one of my sons off to college recently, and Thank you. Thank you. And, I grew up in a situation where my dad worked a whole lot, right? And he missed out on a lot. And so my husband and I, we wanted to create a life where we could still be able to, expose them to things that, they probably wouldn't be exposed to if we weren't entrepreneurs, but we also wanted to be present for them. And so that's how we've been able to structure our life. We miss nothing. Both of us, we are there together, everything with the kids. Okay. And so that works for us.
We were trying to schedule some stuff for last fall. Listen, depending on the weekend, I got this game. And I'm like,
yes.
Hey, that's amazing. I love it. And
yes.
That's why we do it. Right. Mm-hmm. I have two more questions for you if we can fit it in the time span that we have. Speaking of kids, when you told me that all of your children have businesses,
yes,
I was like, okay, see, this is the circle I want to be around. I'm like, yeah. Walk me through that, because there are people here that, maybe they have young kids, maybe they have older kids. What did you teach? How were you teaching your children just the lessons of entrepreneurship and the importance of ownership they're seeing it from you, but like what are you instilling in them that's even a desire for them to want to have businesses, not to get a job, nothing wrong with getting a job at McDonald's, whatever like that, but like, or maybe Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is a little bit better.
Yeah.
Like, what are you instilling in them?
Well, it's so funny because my middle son, he had a job recently this year for about a month and a half. And then he was like, Mom, I mean, what I make in this business, I can sell tacos in, 2 settings, and I make it's just the way they think. And I remember what happened. Like, I remember what happened. One, I would say this: we've always brought them along their journey. Okay, so when we first started our landscaping company, it was all hands on deck. They were working in the landscaping company too, and because we've homeschooled various times of life, they've been able to literally learn through being in our businesses. So we've always involved them in everything we do. So that's a big deal. And then I'm always in the same curiosity that I have. I challenge them with that same curiosity. I remember one time I was with my middle son and we were at the library, and at the time he was thinking about starting a baking business. And I created a lesson of homeschool, and I just said, okay, well, let's actually talk about this. Let's talk about, he was trying to save up for something. And so we just compare. We say, okay, if you work in the landscaping company, you make $8 an hour. How many hours do you need to make in order to be able to accomplish what you need to accomplish? And he told me. And then we compared that to, okay, so if you bake a batch of cookies, say you sell 2 dozen cookies, and we just walked through the process. And it was so beautiful, because it's one thing as parents, you can tell your kids, or you can help them self-discover. And I found that when you help them self-discover, it's way more impactful, because as soon as I helped him self-discover that he can make the same amount of money in like 2 hours that he could make working, 10 hours for our company, the light bulb went off for him. And so I think in the same way that we love the autonomy and the freedom and the creative freedom that it comes with creating something, our kids have just been able to see that as well. And one of the things that we love doing with them, we just love helping them try different things. So my oldest son, it's really interesting, because my oldest son he was interested in maybe doing something with the camera and photography. And so we had someone that we went to church with that had a production company. And so he got a chance to do some like intern PA stuff with him. And we bought him a camera. It didn't work out. He didn't like it. He ended up going a different direction. But the younger son ended up picking up that camera. Okay. And then next thing you know, because the camera was at the house, now, probably 5 years later, he has a sports videography business. This past year, he interned with one of ESPN's youth platforms called Max Prep. He ended up being an intern through Max Prep just because of his love for sports videography. We do not have to tell him. He will get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. He will do the work and he loves it, So it's just about helping them like self-discover, bringing them along their journey, being curious and supporting them and just letting them try things. That's been the journey that we've seen with our kids.
I love that. That is so amazing. I think I was inspired by it because, God is a generational God. Every time you look in Scripture, He's talking in the context of generations, right? And we pass on to them. We pass on our faith, which is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Also passing on these different values, so they're not just stuck within the world system and all this.
Yeah.
So I think, and I from my consulting days, I love that approach of if I was taught this of like, if you tell a client what to do, they'll rarely do it. But if you ask questions and almost lead them to discover it, of like, oh, I discovered it. It's like, yeah, you discovered it. But like, but they have to have ownership in what they learn for it to stick. And so I just think that's brilliant.
Yeah. Thank you.
We just turned this into a parenting podcast and I love it.
Whatever the Lord leads us. That's how it is. Somebody's picking it up.
Somebody is.
Yeah.
Last question here, because I know you have to go. One, I just want to thank you for your time because this has been so much fun. Oh my gosh, I'm learning. I got to have you back on. We got to do it in person.
Yeah. Yes.
I love Zoom. God bless it, or Riverside, but we got to do it in person.
Yeah.
Last question: if you had one thing you could leave with, kind of these, our community they're newer entrepreneurs, so they're years 1 and 5. They have a strong passion. They want to build God's way. They want to do it in a biblical way. They want to give glory to God. But, they want to build businesses that are profitable and that can make an impact. What if you could leave one thing with them? I know it's a very broad question.
Yeah.
What would you leave with them?
I would say, don't separate your desire and ambition away from the Lord. Like, you don't have to compartmentalize that. Like, the Lord is just as much concerned about your idea and your business as He is about everything else in your life. One of my mentors, which I admire so much, one of the most things I admire about him is not because he's worth $100 million, not because he has like thousands of units in properties. It's because he earnestly seeks the Lord and prays and asks for wisdom when he needs support, even after all of his success. And it reminds me of this scripture. I want to actually read it. It's Psalm 16, 8-9. I will always let the Lord guide me because he is at my right hand. I will not be shaken. Therefore, my heart is glad and my whole being rejoices. My body also rests securely. So when you know that you are seeking the Lord for guidance, and you are seeking the Lord for wisdom, and you begin to follow those clues, the comfort that I have, because being an entrepreneur for 10 years is not easy, okay? No. Like, we've been through up times, we've been through down times. It's not easy. But the security that I have is that I know that these businesses and what I'm doing, it's not just because I have wanted to do them. It's not because I've manipulated something to kind of figure it out. And so because it's God's business, then I say, okay, Lord, this is you. Obviously, you brought this opportunity. You brought this idea. And even though I am experiencing this trouble right now, you're going to have to fix it. You're going to have to do it. Let me know what you need me to do. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to do what you need. But at the end of the day, you brought this, right? Yeah. And so there's so much rest that comes with that when you are actively seeking the Lord. So I just encourage new folks, don't leave the Lord out. Okay. Welcome the Lord into your prayers and your desires and your learning, and the Lord will guide you and light your path. And so that's been my journey. Now I will be 10 years in March as a full-time, no W-2 from somewhere else in the background entrepreneur. Okay. So that is my advice that I would give.
And in 10 years to see what God has done is just unbelievable. And what you said is absolutely right. Whatever God ordains, He sustains. Like, there's a reason why Faith Hustle, we only spelt it with one H, not two. It's like there is no separation. It's all. He wants to be all in it, and so that is so beautiful. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you for having me.
And I know we're gonna.
This is part one. Part one. We got like a part 2, 3, 4. We're gonna have your husband on. Yeah. Yes.
It's gonna be awesome. But thank you so much again for your time.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Faith Hustle Podcast. We hope you felt challenged, encouraged, and equipped to walk out your faith hustle. And if you enjoyed this episode, we encourage you to subscribe to the podcast, whether you're listening on YouTube or any audio platform. As well, leave us a review. It helps us so much in our ratings so we can get the word out to more people. Each week we have these conversations with business owners who build their business God's way. And so we look forward to growing with you on your faith hustle journey. We'll see you next time.